AITA for walking away after my wife mocked me by saying her ex was better than me? It had been weeks. That's how long I'd been getting the silent treatment from my own wife. 3 weeks of watching her thumb scroll endlessly on her phone while I tried to initiate any kind of physical connection. 3 weeks of being treated like a roommate, the one who helps cover the mortgage. It started subtly, a turned cheek when I leaned in for a kiss. Her rolling away in our king-sized bed when I reached for her. "I'm tired," became her go-to phrase, delivered with all the passion of someone reading a utility bill. But it wasn't just the physical rejection that was eating at me. It was the complete emotional wall she had put up. I tried everything. I brought her coffee in bed, planned a date night at that Italian place in the city she loved, and even suggested a weekend getaway to the coast. Every attempt was met with the same lukewarm response. "That's nice," or "maybe later," or "my personal favorite, we'll see." The worst part was she wouldn't even look at me during these dismissals. Her eyes remained glued to her screen, as if I were just an annoying pop-up ad interrupting her evening. I started to wonder if I had done something wrong, if I had said something to offend her, but every time I asked, she'd shut me down with, "It's nothing, I'm just not in the mood," for 3 weeks straight. Last Tuesday, I decided I had to address it head-on. We were on the sofa after dinner, and she was in her usual zombie-like trance with her phone while some reality show played on the TV. I muted the sound and sat on the coffee table in front of her. "Jessica, we need to talk about what's happening between us." She didn't even look up. "About what?" "You know exactly what. We haven't been intimate in weeks. You barely acknowledge me when I try to show you any affection. We're living like strangers in our own house." She finally looked up, but with an expression that suggested I was being overly dramatic. "Couples go through phases, Michael. It's normal. 3 weeks isn't a phase, Jess. It's a pattern." She set her phone down with an exaggerated sigh. "What do you want? What do you want me to say? That I should force myself to be in the mood just because you need attention? I want to understand why my wife treats me like I'm invisible." It was then that her expression shifted. A coldness washed over her face, and she stood up from the couch. "You want to know the truth? You're always so needy, always wanting something from me. My ex never made me feel so undervalued." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. My ex never made me feel so undervalued. She had just compared our marriage to her previous relationship. She compared me to the guy she dated before we met, and apparently, I didn't measure up. I stood there, paralyzed for a moment, trying to process what she'd just said. She stood with her arms crossed, as if she had just delivered some profound truth instead of a devastating insult. The woman I had married, the woman I had built a life with, had just told me her ex-boyfriend was better than me at making her feel valued. "So that's what this is about," I said quietly. "You're comparing me to him?" She rolled her eyes. "I'm not comparing anyone. I'm just saying that some men know how to make a woman feel valued without being so demanding." Demanding? That's what she called wanting basic affection from my own wife. I stood up slowly, feeling something fundamental crack inside me. It wasn't exactly anger, it was clarity. The kind of clarity you get when someone shows you exactly where you rank in their life. "I understand. Don't be dramatic. You're making a bigger deal out of this than it is." But I wasn't making it a big deal. I was finally seeing its true importance. For 3 weeks, I had agonized over what I'd done wrong. It turned out my only crime was existing in the same space as her memories of someone else. My crime was failing to live up to an idealized version of a past relationship she had decided was superior to ours. I walked upstairs without another word. Behind me, I heard her yell, "Where are you going? We're not done talking about this." But I was done. We were done the moment she decided our marriage was worth less than her nostalgia for a man who wasn't even in her life anymore. I sat on the edge of our bed, staring at the wall. "My ex never made me feel so undervalued." The sentence replayed in my head like a broken record. She hadn't just rejected me. She had ranked me, and I had lost to a ghost. That night, she came to bed as if nothing had happened, brushed her teeth, did her skincare routine, slid under the covers, and immediately picked up her phone. Her usual ritual. But for me, something had irrevocably changed. I wasn't angry anymore, and I wasn't hurt. I was just tired. Tired of begging for scraps of attention from someone who clearly didn't think I deserved it. Tired of competing with a memory. As I lay there in the dark, listening to the soft clicks of her scrolling, I made a decision. I wasn't going to plead my case anymore. I wasn't going to try to convince her of my worth. I wasn't going to ask for what should have been given freely. Instead, I was going to give her exactly what she seemed to want: the space to value just how undemanding life could be without me in it. The next morning, I woke up with a strange sense of calm. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't scheming up ways to reconnect with her. I wasn't thinking about romantic gestures or conversation starters. I was thinking about logistics. She was already in the kitchen making coffee when I came downstairs. Normally, I would try to catch her before she left for work, maybe steal a kiss or ask about her day. Not today. I poured my own coffee, grabbed a granola bar, and headed for the garage door. "I'll probably be home early," she said, her eyes on her laptop. Okay. I didn't offer any details about my own day. I let her wonder. I did something I had never done before. I drove to the bank and opened a separate checking account. Nothing dramatic. I just arranged for a portion of my direct deposit to be routed to an account that had only my name on it. Then I went home and made a list of everything that was mine versus ours versus hers. I was surprised to realize how generous I'd been over the years. Most of our significant assets, besides the house, were purchased with my income. When I got home that afternoon, she was on the couch, in her usual spot, phone in hand, a reality show she wasn't really watching on the TV. "How was your day?" she asked without looking up. "It was fine." I sat in the armchair across from her instead of on the couch beside her. "Anything else you'd like to know?" She finally looked at me, confused by my tone. "I don't know. You usually tell me about your day." "I do. I just didn't realize you were paying attention." Her eyebrows shot up. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing. Just an observation." In the days that followed, I maintained this attitude, polite but distant. I stopped initiating conversations about our relationship. I stopped asking about her day with any genuine interest. I stopped suggesting we do things together. When she made passive-aggressive comments about my behavior, I responded with the diplomatic neutrality I'd use with a difficult coworker. By Thursday, it was clearly getting to her. "You're acting weird," she announced during dinner. "Weird how?" "I don't know. Just distant." "Cool." I looked up from my plate. "I'm giving you what you asked for. Space to feel valued without demands." "That's not what I said. You said I was too needy, so I'm being less needy." "That's not how you fix things," she said, putting her fork down. "You're being passive-aggressive." "No, I'm being reactive." "There's a difference." "What does that even mean?" I leaned back in my chair. "It means I'm done chasing someone who clearly doesn't want to be chased. You made it very clear that my attention feels like pressure. So consider the pressure officially off. You're acting like a child." "Actually, I'm acting like an adult who listened to what his wife said and adjusted his behavior accordingly." She stared at me for a long moment. "I didn't say I didn't want your attention. I said you were being needy about it." "Correct. And apparently your ex figured out how to give you attention without being needy. So, obviously my approach was wrong." Her face flushed. "You're never going to let that go, are you?" "Let what go?" "The fact that you compared our marriage to your old relationship and found it lacking? Why would I let that go?" It was very educational. I was frustrated. People say things when they're frustrated. Of course they do. They say what they really think. Over the weekend, while she was out with her friends, I quietly gathered all my important documents: birth certificate, passport, social security card, financial statements, insurance policies. I organized everything into a portfolio and put it in my car. Then I walked through the house, making a mental inventory of what I had brought into the marriage versus what we had acquired together. On Sunday night, she tried a new tactic. "I've been thinking about what we talked about," she said, sitting next to me on the couch for the first time in days. "That conversation about us. The intimacy issue." I muted the TV and turned to face her. "And maybe we should try to work on this together. Go to couples counseling or something." "Counseling for what?" "For our communication problems." I almost laughed. "Our communication seems pretty clear to me. You told me exactly how you feel about our relationship. I heard you loud and clear." "You're twisting my words." "Am I?" "Because what I heard was that your ex-boyfriend was better at making you feel valued than your husband." Did I misunderstand? She was silent for a moment. "I didn't mean it like that." "How did you mean it then?" "I meant that maybe you could learn from how other men handle relationships. Other men, like your ex. Like men who understand that appreciation isn't just about physical attention." I nodded slowly. "So this is still about me not measuring up to your standard, a standard which is apparently based on another man." That's not what I'm saying. Then what are you saying? She struggled for words. I'm saying maybe we both need to try harder. You know what? You're absolutely right, I said, standing up and heading for the stairs. Where are you going? To try harder. Just not in the way you expect. That night, I lay in bed next to her, planning. She thought this was me sulking, throwing a tantrum. She thought that eventually, I'd cool off, apologize for being distant, and we'd go back to normal. She thought she could make a comparison like that, and then smooth it over with a vague conversation about working on it. She was wrong. On Monday morning, I took a personal day from work. I just told my manager I had some family matters to attend to, which wasn't technically a lie. I was attending to the matter of my family falling apart. While she was at her office, I went to see a lawyer. Not to file papers yet, but to understand my options, to know what I was facing if things went the way I suspected they would. The lawyer was a direct, no-nonsense woman. How long have you been married? 6 years. Any children? No. Any joint property? The house is in both our names. Most of the other major assets are in mine. She nodded. That simplifies things. Are you thinking about separation or divorce? I'm thinking about what my life looks like without someone who doesn't value me being in it. Understood. Here's what you need to know. When I got home that afternoon, I had a clear picture of my legal standing. I also had something else, a timeline. Not to leave, exactly, but to be ready to leave when the time was right. I had a feeling that time was coming soon. Friday morning arrived like any other day, except it wasn't. Jessica was still asleep when my alarm went off at 5:30 a.m. I'd been setting it earlier all week, telling her I wanted to hit the gym before work. In reality, I had been using the extra time to finalize my preparations. I moved through the house like a ghost, which, in a way, I had become. 2 large duffel bags from the back of the closet. Essential clothes for a couple of weeks, my laptop, chargers, toiletries. The portfolio with my documents was already in my car, along with my important tools from the garage, the watch my father gave me, and the autographed baseball I'd had since I was 12. Everything else could wait. This wasn't about taking everything I owned. It was about taking everything I needed to start over. The hardest part was being quiet. Every footstep seemed to echo. Every drawer I opened sounded like a freight train. But she was a heavy sleeper, and I had learned her patterns over 6 years of marriage. Before I left, I wrote a note on a piece of paper and left it on the kitchen counter, right where she'd see it when she came down for coffee. You wanted to feel valued. Now you can find out what that really means. Simple, direct. No drama, no accusations, no emotional manipulation. Just a statement of fact. I drove to my friend Dave's house across town. He'd been expecting me since Wednesday, when I finally told him what was going on. Dave had gone through his own divorce 2 years ago, so he understood better than anyone. How do you feel? He asked as I dropped my bags in his guest room. Lighter than I have in months. That's how you know you did the right thing. I settled into his guest room and turned off my phone. I wanted her to discover my absence naturally, not because I wasn't answering a text. I wanted her to come downstairs, see the note, realize my things were gone, and understand that this wasn't some dramatic stunt to get attention. This was a decision. Around noon, I turned my phone back on. 17 missed calls, 12 text messages. The progression was fascinating to observe. The first message, sent at 8:47 a.m. Where are you? Your note makes no sense. The second, at 9:15 a.m. Seriously, Michael, where did you go? This isn't funny. By 10:30 a.m., it had escalated. Answer your phone. Now, 11:15 a.m. If you think this is going to solve anything, you are so wrong. The calls started coming more frequently after that. I let them all go to voicemail. By evening, I had 47 missed calls and 23 messages. The change in tone was remarkable. The afternoon messages were angry. You can't just leave without talking. And this is so childish and immature. By evening, they had shifted to bargaining. I know you're upset, but we can get through this. And just come home so we can talk. The late-night messages were different. I'm scared. Where are you? Please, just let me know you're okay. But there was one thing she never said in any of those messages. She never said she was wrong. She never acknowledged that what she said was hurtful. She never once apologized for putting our marriage on trial against a past relationship. Dave saw me scrolling through my phone on Saturday morning. She's going through the stages. Looks like you're somewhere between anger and bargaining. You gonna answer? Not yet. She needs to understand this isn't a negotiation. It's a consequence. On Saturday afternoon, she tried a new strategy. She showed up at Dave's house. I watched from the upstairs window as she hammered on the front door. Dave answered it, and I could hear her voice clearly. "I know he's in there, Dave. I need to talk to him." "He doesn't want to talk to you right now, Jessica. He's my husband, and you're keeping him from his home." She stood on the porch for 20 minutes, alternating between banging on the door, yelling my name, and calling my phone. Finally, she left, but not before shouting loud enough for the whole neighborhood to hear. "This is ridiculous, Michael. You can't hide forever." Sunday was quieter. Just a few calls, fewer texts. She was either regrouping or starting to accept that I wouldn't come back just because she demanded it. On Monday morning, she tried to show up at my office. I had anticipated this and already spoken to building security, asking them not to let her up. The head of security called me around 10 a.m. "Mr. Evans, your wife was here asking for you. We informed her you were unavailable and asked her to leave." She did not take it well. How not well? She caused enough of a scene that we had to escort her from the property. Nothing over the top, but she was definitely upset. The humiliation of being escorted out of my company's building in front of my colleagues would sting. She cared immensely about appearances, about what people thought of our marriage. Being removed by security would feel like a public declaration that our life was in serious trouble. That night, the messages changed again. "I can't believe you had me escorted out of your work like I'm some crazy person. Everyone is asking what's going on. What am I supposed to tell them? This is affecting more than just us. Your behavior is shameful." My behavior? She was still framing this as something I was doing wrong, not as a reaction to what she had done to get us here. On Tuesday night, she tried calling from her sister Sarah's phone, probably thinking I'd answer an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. The message came a minute later. "Michael, I know you're ignoring my calls, but this is getting out of hand. I talked to Sarah about what happened, and she agrees you're overreacting. We all say things we don't mean when we're upset." I said I was sorry. Except she hadn't. Not once, in any of her messages. She had explained, justified, minimized, and blamed, but she had never actually apologized. On Wednesday morning, I received a text that was different from the others. "I went to see a therapist yesterday. She said I need to take responsibility for my part in this. I'm trying to understand what I did wrong, but I can't fix it if you won't talk to me." For the first time since I left, she was acknowledging that maybe, just maybe, she had done something wrong. She still wasn't sorry for it, but she was admitting it existed. But acknowledgement wasn't enough. Realizing you hurt someone doesn't undo the damage. It doesn't change the fundamental problem. She had weighed our marriage against her past and found it wanting. Even if she apologized now, the damage was done. She had shown me how she saw me, and I couldn't unsee it. By Thursday, the messages were desperate. "It's been a week, Michael. A week. You've made your point. Now please, come home. I can't eat. I can't sleep. I can't focus. Whatever you want me to say, I'll say it. Whatever you want me to do, I'll do it." But that was the problem. I didn't want her to say or do anything because I demanded it. I wanted her to value what we had on her own. I wanted her to appreciate our life together without comparing it to something else. And she had proven she couldn't do that. On Friday morning, exactly 1 week after I left, a call came from her sister, Sarah. Her name flashed on my screen. I almost ignored it, but curiosity won. "She's falling apart, Michael." Those were the first words out of her mouth. No hello, no how are you. She hasn't slept in 3 days. She's missing work. She just sits in the house crying and staring at that note you left. "Good morning to you, too, Sarah. Don't get sarcastic with me. My sister is suffering because of what you did." I gave her exactly what she said she wanted. Space to not feel pressured. That's not what she wanted, and you know it. I sat on Dave's couch, phone in one hand, coffee mug in the other. Actually, that is what she said. She said I was too needy. She said her ex never made her feel as undervalued as I did. So I removed myself from the equation. She didn't mean it like that. Then how did she mean it? Silence on the other end of the line. She was just frustrated, right? And when people are frustrated, they say what they really think. And she really thinks her ex-boyfriend was better at making her feel valued than her husband. So now she's free to appreciate that memory without me getting in the way. You're being cruel. I'm being honest. There's a difference. Sarah tried a different angle. Look, she knows she messed up. She's been beating herself up all week. Has she? Because in all the messages she's sent, She's never once apologized for what she said. She hasn't said, "I'm sorry for comparing our marriage to my past relationship." She's afraid you won't forgive her. She should be more afraid that what she said was true. What's that supposed to mean? It means you don't just accidentally compare your husband to an ex and find him lacking. That's not a slip of the tongue. That's something you've been thinking about for a long time. The conversation went on for another 10 minutes, with her sister trying every argument she could think of. I was being too harsh. Marriage is about forgiveness. We all make mistakes. She's learned her lesson. But the lesson she needed to learn wasn't about choosing her words more carefully. The lesson was about appreciating what you have before it's gone. And that was a lesson she was going to have to learn the hard way. After I hung up, I realized something had shifted in me over the past week. The anger was gone. The pain was fading. What remained was just clarity. A crystal clear understanding of where I stood, and a crystal clear resolve about what I had to do next. On Saturday, she tried something new. Instead of calling, she started showing up at places she thought I might be. The gym I used to go to, the sports bar where I sometimes watched the game, the bookstore where I bought her birthday gift last year. Dave's neighbor called him around 2 p.m. "Hey Dave, there's a woman sitting in a car across from your house. Been there for about 3 hours. I looked out the window. Sure enough, there was Jessica's SUV parked across the street. She was just sitting there, waiting, probably hoping I'd emerge so she could force a conversation. How long do you think she'll stay?" Dave asked. "Until she realizes I'm not coming out." She stayed until almost midnight, just sitting in her car, occasionally getting out to pace the sidewalk before getting back in. The dedication was impressive, but it confirmed what I already suspected. She still thought this was about getting me to talk. She thought if she could just corner me, she could explain her way out of the hole she'd dug. On Sunday morning, I received a message from her. "I saw you at Dave's house. I know you're in there. I waited all day yesterday. I'll wait all day today if I have to." I replied with 2 words, "Don't wait." It was the first thing I had sent her since leaving the note. Within seconds, my phone was ringing. "Thank God you answered. We need to talk." "No, Jessica, we don't." "Yes, we do. You can't just throw away 6 years of marriage over one argument." "That wasn't an argument. An argument is between equals. That was you telling me how you really feel about me and our relationship." I was wrong. I know I was wrong. Wrong about what? About saying it. About comparing you to him. "So you didn't mean it?" A pause. "I meant it at the time, but I was angry." "You meant it at the time. That's all I need to know." People don't say things they don't mean when they're angry. They say things they usually keep hidden. You've been thinking about your ex. Comparing how he made you feel to how I make you feel. You've been keeping a mental scorecard. And I've been losing. That's not true. Then why did you say it? Another, longer pause. "I don't know." You do know. You just don't want to admit it. Okay, fine. Maybe I've thought about it sometimes. But that doesn't mean I don't love you. There it was. The truth she had been avoiding for a week. She had been making comparisons. I had been losing on her scoreboard. "Thank you for being honest," I said. "So you're coming home now?" "No." "Why not?" "I told you the truth." "The truth is exactly why I'm not coming home. You love me, but you don't value me. You love me, but you think someone else was better. You love me, but you wish I were more like him." I never said that. You didn't have to. It was implied in every word. She started to cry. I could hear the sobs through the phone. "I can't lose you over this, Michael. I can't lose us. You already lost us the moment you decided our marriage was worth less than your memories. But I chose you. I married you. You settled for me. After you realized he wasn't an option, you settled for who was there. And for 6 years, I was grateful to have been chosen. But I'm done being grateful for being second place." "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like?" Silence. "Exactly." I hung up the phone. Within an hour, I had 14 missed calls and a flood of texts that cycled from pleading to anger to bargaining and back again. "I can change. I'll never mention him again. We can go to therapy. I'll do whatever you want. Please don't give up on us. I'm sorry. I am so sorry." The apology I had waited for had finally arrived, buried in a desperate text. But it was too little, too late. An "I'm sorry" doesn't erase the revelation that your wife has been mentally comparing you to her ex for years. An "I'm sorry" doesn't change the fact that you came up short. That night, Dave found me sitting in his backyard with a beer, staring into the dark. "So you good?" She finally admitted it. Admitted she's been comparing me to him. Said she thinks about it sometimes. Wow. Yeah. But at least now I know I wasn't crazy. All those times she seemed distant. All those times she acted like my affection was an annoyance, she was measuring me against some idealized memory of another guy. And now I stop letting her waste both of our time pretending this marriage is something it isn't. On Monday morning, I called my lawyer and scheduled an appointment for that afternoon. It was time to stop reacting and start acting. It was time to make it official. You can't make someone value you. You can't argue them into appreciating what they've already dismissed. And you can't spend your life competing with a ghost. On Tuesday morning, her sister Sarah called again, this time screaming. She hasn't eaten in 3 days, Michael. She's not sleeping. You need to come home right now. She's disintegrating. I've never seen her like this. I put down my coffee. That's what happens when you finally realize what you've lost. How can you be so cold? She's your wife. She had a revelation, Sarah. She's been comparing me to her ex for years. What she said wasn't a slip-up. It was the truth finally coming out. She knows she was wrong. Does she? Because when I pushed her, she admitted she still thinks about the comparison. That's not regret. That's getting caught. Sarah's voice cracked. Marriage is about forgiveness. This isn't about forgiveness. You can't forgive someone for how they fundamentally feel. She showed me where I rank, and I refuse to spend my life trying to climb up from second place. You are being selfish. She needs to learn that actions have consequences. On Wednesday night, both her sister and her mother showed up at Dave's door. We need to talk, her mother announced. No, we don't. She is my daughter, and she is destroying herself over this. She destroyed our marriage the moment she compared it to her past. I'm just dealing with the aftermath. Sarah stepped forward. She has been crying for 2 weeks straight. She can't eat, can't sleep, can't function. Maybe she should have thought of that before she told me her ex never made her feel so undervalued. You took vows, her mother said sternly. So did she. It's hard to honor someone when you know they're wishing you were someone else. She chose you. She settled for me after her first choice didn't work out. For 6 years, I was grateful. I'm not grateful anymore. Her mother tried one last time. What would it take to fix this? She would have to become a different person. Someone who values what she has instead of pining for what she doesn't. Someone who doesn't keep a mental scoreboard between her husband and her ex-boyfriend. People can change. Can she change the fact that for years, she's been thinking about him? Can she change that when she got frustrated, her first instinct was to tell me I wasn't as good as him? Can she change that I've been losing a competition I didn't even know I was in? Neither of them had an answer. That's what I thought. Sarah made one last plea. She is going to keep falling apart until you come back. Then she'll keep falling apart. I'm not coming back to be anyone's second choice. I'm not spending my life trying to measure up to a memory. On Thursday morning, I met with my lawyer and signed the divorce petition. On Friday afternoon, 2 weeks to the day after I left, I finally called her. She answered before the first ring finished. Oh, thank God. Michael, please, come home. I'm so sorry. I was an idiot. I know what I said was horrible, but I love you. I choose you. I want to fix this. I let her talk. I let her get it all out. The apologies, the promises, the desperation. When she was finished, she pleaded, please, just come home and we can get past this together. There is nothing to get past, Jessica. You taught me something important about how you really see our marriage. And I'm grateful for that lesson. What lesson? That I'm not enough for you compared to your ex. That when you married me, you were settling. That for 6 years, I've been competing with a memory and losing. That's not true. It is true. And you know what? Thank you for finally being honest. You saved me from wasting any more years of my life trying to be someone I'm not. I was wrong. I was angry and stupid, and I said something awful that I didn't mean. You meant every word. That kind of comparison doesn't just slip out. It comes from years of thinking it. I can change. We can go to therapy. You can't change how you fundamentally feel about me. You can learn to hide it better, but you can't change it. I refuse to spend my life as someone's consolation prize. Her voice broke. Please, don't do this to us. No. You need to learn that you can't tell your husband he doesn't measure up to your ex and expect him to stick around for more of the same. But I love you. You love having a husband. You love the security and the companionship. But you don't love me enough to value me for who I am. Without comparing me to someone else. What's not fair is marrying someone while you're still emotionally hung up on your past. What's not fair is making me compete with a ghost for 6 years. Now she was openly sobbing. I'll never mention him again. I'll never even think about him again. It's too late. You already showed me where I stand. You already revealed that when things get tough, your first instinct is to find our marriage lacking compared to a memory. So that's it. You're just giving up on us. I'm not giving up. I'm accepting reality. The reality is that I deserve someone who chooses me first, not someone who settles for me because their first choice wasn't available. I chose you. You chose what was available. There's a difference. What can I do? Tell me what to do, and I'll do it. There is nothing you can do. You can't undo 6 years of mental comparisons. You can't change the fact that I now know how you see me. And you can't make me forget that your response to being frustrated with me was to tell me another man did it better. Please. I've already filed for divorce. The papers should be served to you next week. This call is a courtesy, so you know it's over. You can't just throw away everything we built. I'm not throwing it away. I'm finally seeing that what we built was never what I thought it was. I thought we built a life between two people who chose each other. It turns out, we built one between someone who chose and someone who settled. I never settled. Yes, you did. And now you get to experience what it feels like to lose what you settled for. I won't sign the papers. You don't have to. In our state, after the mandatory waiting period, the divorce can proceed without your signature. But I'd advise you to sign. Make this easier on both of us. This isn't over. Yes, it is. You wanted to feel valued. Now you can spend the rest of your life valuing what you had after it's gone. I hung up the phone and blocked her number. 3 months later, the divorce was finalized. I heard through mutual friends that she had moved back in with her parents, that she'd tried dating but couldn't seem to connect with anyone, and that she told people she'd made the biggest mistake of her life. But mistakes can be forgiven. What she did wasn't a mistake. It was a revelation of her true feelings. And I was grateful she had finally been honest about it. I never looked back. Comment. I know this story may bring up a lot of feelings for many of you. It's a powerful reminder that you can't build a healthy life on a foundation where you aren't valued. Setting a boundary isn't an act of anger. It's an act of clarity and self-preservation. We're all responsible for the words we choose and the impact they have on the people we love. True kindness must include being kind to ourselves first. Sometimes the bravest decision is to quietly choose peace over a painful, never-ending conflict. Healing begins the moment you decide your well-being is non-negotiable. My hope is that you always feel seen, heard, and deeply appreciated in your own life. Remember to protect your peace with courage and grace. Thank you for being here and for sharing this space with me today. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.